Your dog's reactivity cost you more than peaceful walks. It cost you the version of your life that you'd been planning on. Welcome to The Dog Who Asked for More, the podcast for dog parents navigating the messy, complicated parts of life with a dog. Here you'll gain confidence in your decisions, deepen your connection with your dog, and finally feel seen in something you've never been able to say out loud. I'm Em, a dog mom, former vet tech, dog trainer, and canine nutritionist who built something from nothing because a dog needed me to figure it out, and who works with dog parents who are trying to do the same. There's a version of reactive dog life that people talk about. The walks that don't go well, the places you stop going, the way your world gets a little smaller every time something doesn't work. And then there's the version nobody talks about, the one where it starts costing you more than walks, where the reactivity bleeds into your work, your income, your inability to say yes to things that you need to say yes to. Maybe you can't bring your dog with you anymore. Maybe you can't leave them safely either. Maybe you're doing the math in real time. What can I take on? What do I have to turn down? What does this actually cost me? And the numbers aren't adding up. And you're not telling anyone that part because it's embarrassing, because you're supposed to love your dog through all of it. Because admitting that your dog's behavior is affecting your ability to pay your bills feels like a betrayal of something you can't name. Fitz was supposed to be a service dog. That was the plan. He came from a litter born to a mother rescued off the side of a road, and I chose him, not knowing that trauma passes down. I didn't understand what I was getting into. I also didn't understand how much the environment around us was going to shape what happened next. Fitz washed out of being a service dog. The reactivity made it impossible. And at the same time, I was trying to figure out what to do with a dog who couldn't do the thing he was supposed to do. I was also trying to hold together a life that was falling apart in other directions. There was a relationship, a bad one. Someone I couldn't trust to be home alone with my dogs. Doors left open overnight. A fire in the fire pit going all night long. Someone passed out in the backyard. I never knew what I was going to come home to. And I couldn't bring Fitz on pet sitting jobs because he couldn't be around other dogs without falling apart. So he had to stay home with someone I didn't trust. And I started turning down work I couldn't afford to lose because I didn't have any other option. And then COVID. I don't think people talk about this enough. The way your dog's reactivity can quietly restructure your whole life without you fully realizing it until you're standing in the middle of it, wondering how you got there. I've talked to people who have turned down promotions because they couldn't sort out the dog situation, people who stopped taking clients, people who moved, people who made decisions they never expected to make because of a dog who needed more than the life they had could hold. What I know now is that Fitz was never supposed to be a service dog, not because he failed, but because that wasn't the direction I needed to go. The reactivity that washed him out, the same reactivity that cost me work, that complicated everything that I spent years trying to manage, was also the thing that made me figure out training and nutrition, and eventually this. All of it came from trying to understand a dog who needed more than I knew how to give at the time. He didn't become what he was supposed to, and neither did I. We figured something else out. And even knowing that now, even being able to see the shape of it from the other side, it's still a situation that costs something real. The insight doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't fix the job you couldn't take. It doesn't make the math work out. You can understand that your dog's needs restructured your life and still be in the middle of figuring out how to build something that works inside those constraints. You can see that something is becoming without knowing what it's becoming yet. That's not wisdom failing you. That's just what it actually feels like to be in the middle of it. There was a point where I stopped trying to get back to the plan and started paying attention to what was actually in front of me. And that doesn't make the hard part smaller. You can hold that truth and still grieve the work you lost, still feel the weight of the decisions you had to make, still wish it had looked different. The becoming isn't always obvious when you're in it. Most of the time, it looks like loss, like a door closing, like the plan falling apart in a way you didn't choose or wouldn't have chosen. And you're still in your life trying to make all of it work with the dog in front of you, with the constraints you actually have, trying to figure out what you're building when the original blueprint is gone. That's not failure. That's actually where everything real starts to happen. It shows up differently when you stop trying to get the plan back. The pivot that felt like giving up turns out to be the thing that opens something up for you. The dog who couldn't do the job they were supposed to do becomes the reason you learned everything you now know. The direction you didn't choose ends up being the one that was actually yours. Not because everything happens for a reason, but because sometimes what you build from the wreckage is better than what you were trying to protect. Here's the question I want to leave you with. What if the thing your dog cost you was also the thing that pointed you towards something you didn't know you were looking for? You kept going through the work you had to turn down and the situation you were managing and the plan that stopped being possible. You kept showing up for a dog who needed more when everything else was already asking too much. That's not nothing. That's actually the most important part of the story. And if you're sitting there in the middle of figuring out what comes next, the clarity call is where I'd start. It's not a sales pitch. It's just a conversation about where you are and what your dog actually needs. And it's totally free. The link is in the episode description. So be kind, spread joy, and remember, the plan falling apart was not the end of the story. It was just the part where the real story started.